For this week's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to make what I like to call the suspicion ring. It's hard for me to say. These are the color samples here that I have done for the kits this week. Now, when you start to make the ring, the reason I call it the suspicion ring is because you can't see it right now, but you can barely see a crystal Rivoli inside of the piece. Like this one has a purple underneath it with the black diamond. And then I've got a crystal in this one. So it just depends. You'll be able to see it better once we actually start the project. But with the ring, it's going to depend on the brand crystal that you use as to how many you'll need. If you use a thunder polish crystal, because it's a little bigger, this is the thunder polish and this is the thunder polish, you're going to need 46 4mm bicones. Now, you'll be able to tell this when we actually get to the bottom of the ring, but here on the bottom, using the thunder polish, we'll only be using one bead in between each section. If you use a Swarovski or a Preciosa bicone, you'll need 50 because we'll need 2 beads in between each section here on the back. Additional to your crystals, you're also going to need a size 11 seed bead. You won't need but 22 of those. You're going to need some 3mm round beads for the ring band. And you're also going to need a 14mm crystal Rivoli. Now, for those of you who don't know what a Rivoli is, it's simply a crystal that with no hole, and it has a very small point back to it. This is a reason that we're going to encase it. Now, I'm going to use a lighter color. This is actually the ring I'm going to be showing you today. This is the purple light. But this is the one I'm going to show you today. But I'm going to use a lighter Rivoli so that you can see it, actually what I'm doing in the picture. Under this one, I'm using amethyst, so it really, really looks dark and purpley when you actually see it in person. So this is the one I'll be using today. Now, to start out, I've threaded a needle onto onto each end of a 2-yard piece of Fireline. And essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a square shape. So we're going to make the outside of the box and then finish out the inside. And you'll see more as we go. But to start, what you want to do is on one needle, and I'm going to pull the crystals over here in my beads so that you can see them a little better. To start, I'm going to pick up one 4mm and one size 11 seed bead, one 4mm, one size 11, oh sorry, nope, take that off. So 4mm, one seed bead, and then 3 4mm. So 1, 2, 3. So you should have one 4mm, one seed bead, and 3 4mm, just like this. And let me see if I can't zoom in a little better for you here. Here we go. So this is your first box, 4 seed and 3 4mm. I'm going to let those drop down, and I'm going to pick up one seed bead on one needle, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through that one seed bead. Now for this first box, I'm going to put my needles together. I'm going to hold the seed bead and pull the thread so that when I do, I have now made a box that is in the middle of my thread. The side, this needle here, picks up one crystal, one seed bead, and one crystal. This side here picks up the same. So crystal, seed bead, and crystal. Okay, so same thing on each side. I'm going to let that drop down, and I'm going to pick up one seed bead, and I'm going to cross opposite ways through that one seed bead. Now you have 2 boxes. The needle here on this side is going to pick up 3 4mm. The needle on this side picks up 1 4mm, and I'm going to let those drop. I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead on 1 needle, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through the 1 seed bead. So that now, what that does is you'll be coming out to the side, and that makes the turn for us. This is the first side of our box. For the next box, we're going to pick up a crystal, a seed, and a crystal on each needle. I'm going to let those drop. I'm going to pick up 1 1 seed bead on 1 needle, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through the 1 seed bead. Oh, sorry. Okay, now the thread on this side here is going to pick up 3 4mm. The one on this side picks up 1 4mm. So I've got 3 on this one, 1 on this one. I'm going to let those drop. I'm going to pick up 1 seed bead, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through the 1 seed bead. So that when you pull, now that makes our second side to our box. Each needle will pick up a crystal, a seed, and a crystal. Let those drop. 1 needle picks up 1 seed. Cross your needles opposite ways through the 1 seed. This outside thread picks up 3 4mm. The inside thread here picks up 1 4mm. I'm going to let that fall. 1 needle picks up 1 seed bead, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through the 1 seed bead. Okay, so now 3 sides of my box have been made, and I'm ready to make my last box here to connect this side to this side. So all you have to do is pick up 1 4mm, 1 seed, and 1 4mm onto each needle. I'm going to let those drop, and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through the seed bead here. So the one opposite from where I'm exiting. So I'll take this one and go through this way. And then I'll take this one and go through this way. So that when you pull, now you have a little box of crystals made. Now we're going to finish out the inside here to completely fill up the top. And what we want to do is we want our needles to exit opposite sides of one of the seeds here in the middle circle. So I'm going to stitch through to exit out of this one here. So this outside needle is going to come through the crystal, the seed, the crystal, the seed, the crystal, and the seed. So essentially it's going to go straight through these beads to exit here. The inside one is going to go straight through the crystal and the seed. So we'll do that one first since it's easiest. So the inside one goes through the crystal and the seed. And pull. outside goes through a crystal and a seed, a crystal and a seed, and then a crystal and a seed. Okay, and I'm going to turn this just so it's easy for me to work. So now my needles are coming out opposite ways of this seed bead here to the center. So I'm going to start with the thread exiting this direction here. I'm going to pick up one crystal and I'm going to come through the center seed bead here on that side. So I'm going to coming out here, I'm going to come right through this one seed here and pull. I'm going to pick up a a crystal. I'm coming out here and I'm going to go through this seed here. So coming out here and I'm coming straight through this one. Just like this. So that when I pull, that part of the box in this middle is complete. Now I'm going to take the other needle here. It's coming out at the bottom seed. I'm going to pick up a crystal and I'm going to come right through the seed here to the side. And then I'm going to pick up a crystal and I'm going to go through the seed here. So that now, when you pull, you have a nice square box of crystals. So what I'm going to do is with one needle, I'm going to stitch around to the outside and I'm going to completely tie one thread off. So I'm going to pick the longer thread, the shorter thread, not doing well today, and I'm going to stitch through some of my beads here. I'm going to come under the thread between the seed and the crystal, leave myself a little loop, stick the needle through the loop, and pull. Make sure your little half-hitch knot goes between those two beads. Okay, I'm going to stitch through a few more beads, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a couple of good half-hitch knots through with this one thread. And then once I have a few good knots in there, I'm going to go ahead and trim this thread off. I won't need that one anymore. Alright, so now you're working with a single needle. And you want this needle to exit out of any of the crystals here in the corners. So you got the four corners and you want your bead or your thread to exit out of one of these four corners. So I'm just going to stitch up through my beads to come out of that corner crystal. Again, it doesn't matter which one you go to. Alright, so this is where the two different brand or all your different brand crystals come into play. If you're using the Thunder Polish crystals like these are here, you're going to only pick up one bead at a time in the next few steps. If you're using Swarovski or Preciosa crystals, you will need to pick up 2 beads per step. I'm using the Thunder Polish, so I'm going to pick up 1 bead. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 1 crystal and I'm going to go through the next corner 4 millimeter. So I'm coming out here, so I'm going to come through this crystal here. And what that's going to do when you pull, that's going to pucker the side up there. again, I only picked up one. If you're using Swarovski or a Thunder Polish crystal, you will want to pick up two. I'm going to pick up one 4mm. I'm going to come to the next corner here, stick my needle through that bead, and again pull. I'm not pulling tight yet, I'm just pulling enough to start to make the curve. And you can see as I kind of hold it up what you're starting to have. I'm going to pick up one 4mm. I'm going to come to the next corner and go through the corner. Now this time I'm going to pick up my one crystal. But before I go through the corner, I'm going to take my Rivoli and I'm going to put it color side down, so you want to see the foil back. I'm going to slide it into place, and I'm going to go through that first corner bead I started with, which was this one here on the side. And I'm going to pull and pull nice and tight. So when you do, this is what you'll have on the back. Now, I'm going to go through all these beads here on the back, that circle of beads. So the one bead that I added in the corner, and I'm keeping my fingers on it because I'm pulling it tight as I go. The one bead in the corner. You'll want to pull this really nice and tight because this is what is going to hold that Rivoli in place as you work, or as you wear it. I am just getting tongue-tied today, or I'm getting ahead of myself. And you're just going to keep going. And I normally reinforce this just as many times as I possibly can. And so when you flip it upright, you have your nice diamond shape, and your Rivoli is hidden there in the center. Now with this one, you can see it better than you can see one on this one. Now I used an amethyst on this one here at the side, and you can see how dark it makes it. So you can really make it to blend in with your crystals or to be lighter so that you see it underneath there. Either way, it's a really neat little piece to have and wear. So I'm going to go through, this is my last time going through, and what I'm actually going to do is if I flip it this way, it doesn't matter, it's a diamond shape, so it doesn't matter really which way you do this, but if I flip it like this on the back, I'm going to say that this is my top and my bottom, and these are my sides. So I want to come out of the side crystal. Now this is going to be one of the ones that you added here along the bottom. I'm going to hold it up just a little bit, see if you can see it better. I got a crystal here and a crystal here, and if you look, they're the ones that are right under your seed there on each side. And this is where I'm going to make the loop to actually start my ring band. So I'm going to come out of that crystal. I'm going to pick up 3 crystals. My thread is exiting in this direction, so I want to come back around to make a circle. And I'm going to go right through just that same crystal and pull. Okay, so what that does is that gives me a loop on this side that I can start my ring band. Now, for this ring, I like it to have a stretchy band. I like them to be stretchy. So what I like to do is I like to go ahead and do each side, then I will come back and tie the thread off, then I will come back and add my stretchy band. If you don't want the band to be stretchy and you want it to be a permanent band, you would just continue off of this side with your ring band and then connect to the other side. But so that I can show you how to do the stretch band on these, I'm going to reinforce. I'm going to reinforce this little loop here, and then I'm going to stitch around to the other side, make myself a loop just like this one, and then tie off this thread. Now I know I just told you I was going to cut off my thread, but I wanted to show you one more option you have for your ring. You see my 2 loops here that I just finished. So these are the sides of my ring, and I have the top and the bottom. Now the ring is very pretty as it is, but one option that you can do is you can come to the top and the bottom and you can add a little bit of a seed bead embellishment. This is not required, you don't have to do this, but I wanted to show you how to do it in case you did. What I do is once I finish the bottom, I've stitched out to exit the seed bead or the crystal here before the seed bead. And you'll do this at the top and the bottom. I'm going to pick up 3 seeds. I'm going to skip the seed bead and go through the next crystal, just like that. So it makes a little loop there. If you like that, then you'll stitch to the bottom and do the same thing. Now when you stitch to the bottom, just stitch straight through your beads. It's kind of one of those things, it doesn't matter which path you take, just as long as the path doesn't show your thread. And I don't do it in the corners just because I think the corners, the sides, I'm sorry, if you add too much to that, I'm afraid it would just be too much for the ring. So that's why I just do it here at the top and the bottom, just to add almost a marquee shape to it. So I'm here to the crystal before the seed. I'm going to pick up 3 seeds, skip the seed, and go through the next seed. Just like that. Now I'm ready to tie off this thread and finish out my ring band. Now that the top is complete on my ring, I'm ready to start on my ring band. Now, I've had quite a few people ask me some questions about the difference and why I use what I use. This right here is a 0.5 millimeter Stretch Magic. Now, the Stretch Magic is a plastic stretch. Okay, I like to use this on my ring bands. I also like to use the Opelon cord. Now, the difference between the Opelon and the Stretch Magic is that Stretch Magic is a plastic cord. Opelon is a fiber cord. Now, if you use the Opelon and you thread needles onto the Opelon, the problem that you're going to have is that it can shred as you work. But if you do it and you're patient with it, it makes a wonderful band. So this is just what I have here at the house today. So this is what I'm using. This is the 0.5 Stretch Magic. Otherwise, I would use my Opelon. But I'm going to be using my 3mm rounds here. And you want to put a 3mm onto each thread. Now, I would normally have big eye needles on these, but considering I've tore the house apart and can't find a single one, then not a problem. So, 1 on each needle, and then I'm going to pick up 1, and I'm going to cross the needles, or cross the threads opposite ways through it. So that when I do, and I thread through, and pull, now I have my first loop. So you want to continue doing this. You want 1 thread or 1 bead onto each thread. Let those drop. Pick up 1 on 1 thread and cross your threads opposite ways through the 1 bead and pull. You want to continue this until you get the length for your ring band. Be sure to end with 1 3mm onto each side. So now that I've reached the length that I want, I have 1 3mm onto each thread. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 thread and I'm going to come across and go through the end 4mm here for my loop. Now, without needles, this may take me a little bit of work here, so just be patient with me. There we go. Okay, so that's pulled through now. And I'm going to pull this all the way through. Make sure my band is straight, which it is. And now, I'm going to take the tails and tie them together. Now when you tie them together, be very careful not to get that 3 millimeter that you threaded on the other side caught up inside of the knot. If you do, you will not be a happy camper. Okay, I'm going to put another knot in there. Tied it nice and tight. Now I'm going to put about 2 or 3 really good knots. Make sure that's tied nice and tight. And then I'm going to take my cutters and I'm going to trim that excess cord so that now I have a beautiful new ring. So all 4 of the color combinations will be available on our Etsy site, as well as written directions for the pattern. Again, this is the Purple Light. This is the Rose AB with the Ultra AB Rivoli in the center. This is the Silver with a Crystal Rivoli in the center. And then this is the Black Diamond AB with the light amethyst in the center. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you back next week for another fun project.